Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
Who's the best leader you've ever known? It's what I've been thinking about the last few days as I've contemplated this question of how to become a better leader. It's made me reflect back on the leaders that I've known who've been really great and who have impacted me the most. Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I'm Randy Gravett.
And I'm Mark Miller.
We're glad you're joined us today. We've unpacked the first piece of the operating system that we have created for leaders everywhere last week when we introduced the idea of becoming a better leader. And today I'm thinking about some great leaders that we've known. They've had huge impact on our lives. It's pretty cool. You got to be around a really great leader, Mark, in Truett Cathy.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Truett.
Well, for those that don't know, Truett is the founder of Chick-fil-A. And maybe even equally as impressive, he invented the chicken sandwich.
It's amazing.
I mean, think about that.
It's pretty cool.
He invented the chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege to actually interview with Truett. Just a quick story. I started my Chick-fil-A career working in one of the local Chick-fil-A restaurants, and I was awful. I was awful. I felt like I was going to be fired.
You almost got fired,
any day.
right?
Well, I felt like I was going to be fired every day. And so I made a strategic career decision. This is not advice, by the way, to anybody, but I quit.
Yeah.
Because I thought it would look better to leave than have to explain the rest of my life why I got fired at Chick-fil-A. So I went and got another job. And 6 months later, I got laid off. And I thought, shoot, I need a job. And I said, well, I can't work in one of their restaurants. Maybe I could work at the corporate headquarters. And of course, that makes no sense in any universe, but I chalk it up to the mind of a child. This was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, you're what, 17, 18
I was
years
just
old,
a kid.
20?
And so I was still a teenager. So
Okay.
I walked in to the receptionist at the Chick-fil-A headquarters and said, I'd like to apply for a job working in your warehouse. And so she told me to have a seat, which I thought was a good sign. She didn't call security.
She didn't kick you out. That's
well, and I didn't know they didn't have security, but that's okay. So I sat down, and just a few minutes later, Truett Cathy came out and took me into his office to conduct the interview. The founder. And that didn't even make sense to me, right? And so we had a very short, delightful conversation. And I always tell people it was a combination of God's grace and lack of discernment that Truett gave me that job working in the warehouse. And I later learned why he was conducting the interview, because he only had 15 employees and I would be number 16.
Number 16.
And so I guess if you've got an organization at that size, it's not crazy for the head man or the head woman to be conducting those interviews. And so I had the opportunity to work with Truett for decades. And he was an amazing leader.
Yeah, and so when you think about Truett, and I think about some of the great leaders I've been around, let's go back to what you actually talked about last week. You alluded to the iceberg.
Yes.
We talked about having a definition of what is a lead. Like when you think about the leader that you want to be, it's interesting. We think about the iceberg, and I noticed we got the picture here from Antarctica. You went there. You probably saw some icebergs while you were there.
We saw a lot of icebergs. That's actually why I went.
Yeah,
because I'd been talking about icebergs for decades, and I said, I need to go see
You got to go
these
see
things.
some.
So I told my family I was going. I said, y'all want to go? And of course, they all said yes. So we had a tremendous family adventure.
Did you do
Antarctica.
the polar plunge?
We did do a polar plunge.
Okay, that's
we
good.
did.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah.
So
probably won't do that again.
So I think about the iceberg. I mean, I grew up about the same time you did, and I was in 5th grade as well, and we didn't have a lot of icebergs in my little hometown. But my wife and I went to Alaska. We didn't make it to Antarctica, but we went to Alaska. And I saw some real icebergs there. And my teacher was right. There's more going on underneath the surface. Most of the icebergs, I thought they were like Sink the Titanic big. There's a lot of them. They're just little out in, we're on a little glacier cruise and seeing these things. And you see this little ice above the water. And I didn't have a tape measure or a set of scales, but you can see there's a lot more black mass. And it's like, there's
something under there.
There's something under there. And when I think about the best leaders I've ever known, and I've actually, I guess this last year, I've talked to several thousand people in these events that we've done, and I'll ask them, who's the best leader you've ever known and why? And it's incredible. When I ask the question, was it their character or their skills? It's almost 100% will say it wasn't their ability to lead a meeting or build a team or solve a problem. It actually was their character. It was their their belief in me, their loyalty, their integrity. I mean, all these.
That's what brings them to mind. But my bet is they also had skills.
Well, I always ask them, on the heels of that, I'll say, how many of them were also skilled? And they're all, the hands go up. They wouldn't made the list.
Right.
Think about the best leader you've ever known. You don't go.
It's actually both.
It's actually both, but it is that character piece. And you're the one who you said it last week on the show, but you're the first person I ever heard say that if your heart's not right, nobody cares about your skills. That is the part that causes you to forfeit your influence if you don't have that. And so it's really important that we get that right. But so many great leaders we've been around, they do have both, but it's that character piece that really positions us to have big influence, which is really cool.
So we're going to devote the weeks and months and years to come helping leaders develop both.
Yeah,
the skills and the heart.
Yeah, to try to help people become a better. And we're gonna focus on it these next few days. We're gonna begin to unpack some of that. We're gonna actually give a little foreshadowing to Uncommon Greatness tomorrow, which will be cool. Here's what I would encourage you to do today as we wrap this up. This idea of who's the best leader you've known. When the people around you, if I ask them who's the best leader you've ever known, would you come to mind? Would you make anybody's list? I think you can. But
I know they can.
I
know they can.
I know they can too. I know you can too. I think it's so important for us to focus on becoming a better leader, not just settle for who we are. Now, here's what I want to ask you to do today. There's an old quote somebody shared with me years ago. Those who drink the water should never forget those who dug the well. You won't be able to thank Truett at this point. I mean, you can't, but you can remember the well that he dug, and you drank pretty deeply out of a good life that he lived, and he lived that way. Some of you who are listening, you have an opportunity to go back and thank the leader, the best leader you've ever known. Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a coach, a band director, somebody in community college. You had a history professor, or you played for somebody, your first business leader. Maybe it's your boss right now. Maybe it's the person you report to in your last job. I don't know. But when you begin to think about who's the best leader you've ever known, if you have a chance to go back and thank them, I encourage you to do that. Remind them, hey, you made an investment in me, and I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for you. I think that's a powerful opportunity we have for some of us. Some of the leaders my best leaders I've known, they're not here anymore, and I can't. But I can thank them with the way I live, like you've done so with Truett. And so we want to encourage you to think about that, but also want to encourage you to think about what would you have to do? What would you need to do? What changes would you need to make to become a leader that others want to follow? And if we do that, I think we are living out really what we should be. There's greatness in you. You have an opportunity to really make a difference in the people around you. I hope you'll come back tomorrow and these next few days as we talk about becoming a better leader. It's a huge opportunity we have. Think today about the best leader you've ever known. Why is that? And what would you need to do to become more like that leader? Remember, the best leaders lead every day.